My name is Maya Flores. If you ask my parents, Carmen and Ricardo Flores, they might describe me as complicated, independent, perhaps even difficult. Translation: I'm the daughter who didn't follow the script, the one who built her own life, brick by careful brick, far from their orbit in Phoenix, Arizona. I live in Denver now, own a condo I bought with my own hard earned money from a career in sustainable resource management they barely understand, and generally prefer the quiet predictability of spreadsheets over the chaotic drama of Flores family gatherings. Which is why I found myself pulling up to their sprawling faux Tuscan villa in an upscale Phoenix suburb on a warm Sunday evening in late April, feeling a familiar wave of apprehension. My older brother, Mateo, doctor. Mateo Flores, as my mother never failed to remind everyone, was turning 40. And in the Flores family, Mateo's milestones weren't just celebrated, they were practically state holidays demanding mandatory attendance and performative adoration. Mateo was and always had been the golden child, the brilliant son destined for greatness. While I quietly navigated state school on scholarships and part time library jobs, Mateo sailed through undergrad and then medical school, funded entirely by my parents, emerging as Dr. Flores, currently finishing a prestigious residency. His wife, Isabella, was equally perfect, beautiful, well connected, managing to look effortlessly elegant even while discussing, I assumed, wallpaper samples. They were the picture perfect couple, the embodiment of my parents' aspirations. Me, I was the plus one, literally. As I walked towards the front porch, past the valet parking attendants managing the influx of BMWs and Teslas, my meticulously clean Toyota Camry felt distinctly out of place. The young man in a crisp vest checking the guest list smiled politely. Name? Maya Flores, I replied, adjusting the simple gift bag I held. A nice pen set for Mateo, something useful, impersonal. He scanned the glossy sheet, frowned slightly. Ah, yes, Flores family. Plus one guest? He looked up, confused. Is is that you? I felt the familiar heat rise in my cheeks. Not even listed by name, just an addendum. Guess I'm the lucky plus one, I forced a smile. Right this way, he murmured, looking slightly embarrassed for me as he handed me the generic guest badge. I pinned it to my simple navy dress. Classic cut, good fabric, but no obvious designer label to signal my worth in their currency. The house, already overflowing with guests I barely recognized, pulsed with loud jazz music and the cloying scent of expensive catering. Laughter echoed, too loud, too forced. String lights crisscrossed the meticulously landscaped backyard. It was less a birthday party, more a coronation for the golden sun. I navigated the crowd, offering polite nods, accepting air kisses that never quite landed from aunts and cousins, whose names I struggled to remember. I saw my mother, Carmen, holding court near the elaborate dessert table, resplendent in shimmering sequins, recounting some doubtlessly embellished story about Mateo's brilliance. She saw me, waved vaguely, then immediately turned back to her audience. My father, Ricardo, stood nearby, talking business with Isabella's father, occasionally throwing back his head to laugh too loudly at something someone said. He caught my eye across the room, offered a brief, almost imperceptible nod, acknowledgement of my presence, nothing more, before turning back to his important conversation. Invisible. Again. I found the seating chart for dinner. Tables draped in silk, assigned with calligraphed cards. Table 1, parents, Mateo, Isabella, Isabella's parents. Table 2, important business associates. Tables 3 through 17, various tiers of relatives and friends. My name, tucked away at table 18, the last one, positioned awkwardly behind a large potted palm near the swinging doors to the kitchen. Beside me were seats assigned to distant cousins I hadn't seen since childhood and, inexplicably, the teenage son of Dad's golf buddy. The message was clear, seen, but not important enough to be properly seated. I took my designated seat, the clatter of dishes and muffled shouts of hot plate, from the kitchen providing my dinner soundtrack. I stared at the slightly crooked silverware, the limp napkin folded into a pathetic swan. Maybe they just forgot? A genuine oversight in the chaos of planning such a large event? Part of me, the part that still foolishly craved belonging, tried to cling to that possibility. But deep down, I knew better. This wasn't an accident. This was deliberate. Another quiet, calculated reminder of my place. Dinner was an exercise in polite endurance. I pushed the expensive cedar planked salmon around my plate, sipped my water, offered vague smiles to my table mates when necessary. From my obstructed vantage point, I could hear the toasts beginning at the head table. Lavish praise for Mateo, the brilliant doctor, the pride of the family. My mother's voice, thick with emotion, recounting his childhood genius. My father's booming declaration of Mateo being the foundation, the future of the Flores name. Not once was I mentioned. It was as if I didn't exist, a ghost at their feast. Just as I was contemplating slipping away unnoticed after dessert, the microphone screeched feedback, followed by my mother's overly bright voice. And now, before the cake, we have just one more very special person who wanted to say a few words. Please welcome Mateo's ever thoughtful little sister, Maya. My blood ran cold. Me? Speak? Now? After being treated like an unwanted guest all evening? A spotlight, blindingly bright, swung towards my table. All heads turned. 200 pairs of eyes fixed on me, trapped behind the potted palm. I saw Mateo offer an encouraging nod from the head table, saw the calculating glint in my mother's eyes. This wasn't an honor, it was an ambush. My legs felt like lead as I stood up, navigated awkwardly around the tables, and made my way to the small stage. I hadn't prepared anything. What could I possibly say? I reached the microphone, my hand trembling slightly as I adjusted it. I scanned the sea of expectant faces. It's It's wonderful to be here, I began, my voice sounding distant, thin. To celebrate Mateo. He's always had a gift for lighting up a room. I glanced towards him. His sister-in-law, Isabella, was now seated beside him, her hand resting possessively on his arm. That's when my mother did it. Standing up from the head table, beaming as if delivering the punchline to a heartwarming family anecdote. Oh, Maya, honey, she interrupted brightly, stepping towards the stage. Don't be so modest. Tell everyone your wonderful news, your generous gift. Gift? What gift? I stared at her, completely bewildered. The condo, she declared triumphantly to the room. Our Maya, bless her practical heart, has decided the perfect 40th birthday present for her successful brother and lovely sister-in-law is her beautiful condo in Denver. Isn't that just the most selfless, wonderful gesture? Giving them a stable home base now that Mateo's residency is finishing. The room erupted, not in applause, but in a stunned, confused silence. All eyes were on me again, waiting. My mother stood beside me now, her arm looping through mine, her smile wide, triumphant, trapping me on stage. Isn't that right, darling? She prompted sweetly, her fingers digging slightly into my arm. You wanted to surprise them. My mind reeled. My condo? My $500,000 condo in Denver, the one I'd worked my ass off for, my sanctuary, my biggest asset? Gift it to Mateo and Isabella? It wasn't a suggestion. It was a public declaration. A maneuver designed to leave me no room to refuse without looking petty, ungrateful, monstrous in front of 200 witnesses. My father chimed in from his seat, his voice booming with false generosity. Come on now, Maya. Just a formality. It makes sense for the family. You travel so much anyway, barely use the place. Time to support your brother. I looked from my father's entitled grin to my mother's manipulative smile to my brother Mateo looking down modestly at his plate, though I caught the flicker of greedy anticipation in his eyes, to Isabella beside him, already looking possessive. They had planned this public pressure play, this emotional blackmail disguised as a birthday surprise. My throat felt dry, constricted. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to hide. But then I saw it. The slight smirk on my father's face, the triumphant glint in my mother's eyes. They expected me to crumble, to comply, to be the good invisible daughter one last time. Something inside me, something cold and hard that had been forged in years of their dismissal, finally refused to bend. No, I said. Not into the microphone, just quietly, firmly to my mother beside me. Her smile faltered. What? I said no, I repeated, pulling my arm free, my voice gaining strength. I leaned towards the microphone, my gaze sweeping across the silent, watching crowd. That's incredibly generous of you to offer my property, Mom, Dad. But my Denver condo is not and never will be a birthday gift. It wasn't discussed, and it's not happening. A collective gasp went through the room. My mother looked horrified. My father's face contorted with sudden, unexpected rage. He started to rise from his seat, his knuckles white where he gripped the table edge. This wasn't agreed on, I stated clearly into the microphone now, my voice ringing with newfound confidence. And I will not be pressured or manipulated. What happened next felt like slow motion. My father, Ricardo, lunging towards the stage, bypassing the decorative champagne bottles on the table, his face a mask of fury. He grabbed something else, a heavy, empty wine bottle left carelessly uncleared from a nearby serving station. Before anyone could react, before security could intervene, he swung it. Not wildly, but with a deliberate, vicious arc aimed right at my head. Instinct took over. I flinched sideways, raising my arm defensively. The thick glass connected not with my temple, but glanced hard off my forearm and shoulder with a sickening crack. Pain, white-hot and blinding, shot through me. I staggered back, crying out, vision swimming. Gasps turned to screams. Someone yelled, "Oh my God!" Another shouted, "Did he just hit her?" Phones instantly raised, capturing the ugliness. Blood bloomed on my sleeve, warm and wet, dripping onto the pristine white stage riser. Through the haze of pain and shock, I saw my father standing there, breathing heavily. The neck of the broken bottle still gripped in his hand, his face contorted in rage. My mother screamed his name. Mateo looked frozen in horror. Isabella recoiled. No one moved towards me. Not one family member stepped forward to help, to shield me. They just stared, caught in the horrifying tableau they had created. I straightened slowly, pressing my hand to my bleeding arm, ignoring the throbbing pain in my head where the bottle must have grazed me. I looked out at the stunned faces, at the flashing phones, then directly at my father. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't utter a single word of accusation. I simply turned, walked deliberately off the stage, through the parting crowd that now avoided my gaze, and straight out the ballroom doors, leaving behind the shattered glass, the spilled champagne, the wreckage of my brother's 40th birthday party, and the last vestiges of any familial duty I ever felt. The echo of my steady footsteps on the marble floor was the only sound I made. The emergency room felt like another planet, sterile, fluorescent, smelling faintly of antiseptic and anxiety. The doctor, a young resident with kind eyes, cleaned the gash near my temple, assuring me it wasn't deep but would need a few stitches and likely leave a faint scar. He asked the obligatory questions about how it happened. An accident, I murmured. Champagne bottle. Clumsy. He didn't press, just stitched me up with practiced efficiency, advised watching for concussion symptoms, and sent me on my way with a prescription for pain medication I knew I wouldn't fill. The physical pain was nothing compared to the deep, ragged wound left by my own father's violence. I didn't go back to a hotel. I couldn't face being alone. I called Leah, my oldest friend in Phoenix, the one who knew the broad strokes of my family's dysfunction. Her reaction over the phone shifted from sleepy confusion, it was late, to horrified outrage. He what? With a bottle? Maya, are you okay? Where are you? 10 minutes later, she was pulling up to the ER entrance, bundling me into her car, fussing over the bandage on my head, her fierce loyalty a welcome balm. I stayed with Leah for 3 days, huddled in her guest room, nursing my throbbing head and shattered illusions. My phone remained ominously silent. No calls from Mateo, my golden boy brother. No text from Isabella, his perfect wife. No messages, fake or otherwise, from Carmen or Ricardo, my mother and father. Not even a third-party inquiry about whether their daughter was concussed, bleeding, or, alive after the patriarch assaulted her with glassware at a public event. Their silence screamed louder than any apology could have. They weren't just indifferent. They had closed ranks, likely already spinning a narrative where I was the unstable one who caused a scene. On the fourth day, feeling physically better but emotionally raw, I knew I had to get back to Denver, back to my own space, my own life. Leah drove me to the airport, hugging me tightly. Call me the second you land, she insisted. And Maya, be careful, they sound unhinged. The flight felt long, suspended in a weird limbo between the wreckage in Phoenix and the uncertain future in Denver. As I waited for my luggage at DIA, I automatically reached into my purse for my keys, ready to head to the parking garage. Wallet, phone, lip balm, crumpled receipts. But the small clip where I always kept my spare condo key tucked into a zippered side pocket? Empty. My blood ran cold. I emptied the entire contents of my purse onto an empty bench in the baggage claim area, frantically sorting through mints, old business cards, loose change. Nothing. The spare key was gone? Then I remembered. 3 months ago. Mom and Dad had visited me in Denver. A strained weekend filled with passive-aggressive comments about my condo being small but cozy, and questions about when I plan to settle down properly. On their last day, Dad had accidentally picked up my shoulder bag instead of Mom's nearly identical one as they were leaving. Whoops! Silly me, he'd laughed, handing it back after a few seconds. Getting old. At the time, I thought nothing of it. Now? The memory felt sinister. Had he taken the key then? Planning even then to... What? Dismissing the thought as paranoid, I grabbed my suitcase and headed for a taxi, deciding to deal with getting a spare key from my building management tomorrow. But the unease lingered. Back in my quiet Denver condo, the place felt both like a sanctuary and strangely vulnerable. I double-locked the door, drew the blinds. Exhausted, I crashed onto my bed, intending to sleep for a week. The call came the next afternoon. An unfamiliar local number. Hi, is this Ms. Maya Flores? A cheerful, professional voice asked. Speaking, I replied cautiously. Great. This is Jeanette from Peak Properties Realty. Just calling to confirm our walkthrough appointment at your condo tomorrow at 2 p.m. The photographer is scheduled right after. My stomach plummeted. I'm sorry, I said, gripping the phone. There must be a mistake. My condo isn't for sale. I didn't schedule any walkthrough. Jeanette sounded confused. Oh? That's odd. The listing agreement and showing schedule were set up last week by... Let me see. Papers rustled on her end. Ah, yes, by Mr. Ricardo Flores. He said he was your father, acting on your behalf as co-signer while you were unwell and traveling. He provided access instructions and everything. He provided access instructions, using the spare key he had lifted from my purse. They hadn't just assaulted me, ignored me, written me off. They were actively trying to sell my home out from under me while I was reeling from the attack. The audacity, the cold-blooded calculation, it was monstrous. Jeanette, I said, my voice dangerously calm now, the shock replaced by pure icy fury. My father has absolutely no authority to list or show my property. I am the sole owner. There is no co-signer. He obtained access fraudulently. Cancel that appointment immediately. Cancel the listing. And do not allow anyone associated with Ricardo Flores access to my property again. Consider this your formal notification. Oh my goodness. Jeanette sounded horrified now. Ms. Flores, I am so sorry. Of course, right away. We'll flag the account immediately. This is highly irregular. Highly illegal is the term you're looking for, I replied curtly and hung up. My hands were shaking again, but this time with rage. This wasn't just family dysfunction anymore. This was theft, fraud, conspiracy. I immediately called a locksmith, scheduling an emergency appointment to change every lock on my condo, including the mailbox. Then I opened my laptop and searched for the best property and fraud attorneys in Denver. My brief search for Mr. Warner from the original transcript yielded nothing local, so I looked for highly rated specialists. An hour later, I had booked a consultation for the following morning with a Mr. Marcus Jones, known for his aggressive defense in complex property disputes and financial fraud cases. Just as I closed my laptop, feeling a grim sense of purpose solidify, my phone buzzed. An email from Mom. Subject, thinking of you, Maya. Let's talk, my dearest. Maya, I know things ended badly at Mateo's party, and words were said in anger. Your father feels terribly about the misunderstanding, as do I. We were all just so stressed about the event, and perhaps expectations were too high. We love you very much, sweetheart. You are our daughter. Family fights, but family forgives. Please come home to Phoenix this weekend? No guests, just us. We can have a quiet dinner, talk everything through properly, set some boundaries, and fix this. Let's put it all behind us. All our love. Mom. I stared at the email, the cloying sweetness of it turning my stomach after the realtor's phone call. Fix this. Put it behind us. While they were actively trying to sell my condo using a stolen key, the manipulation was so blatant, so insulting to my intelligence. They weren't sorry. They were likely panicking because their realtor plan had just been exposed. This family dinner wasn't about reconciliation. It was about luring me back into their orbit, likely to pressure me, guilt me, maybe even trick me into signing something under duress. A tiny, traitorous sliver of the old Maya, the one who craved their approval, whispered, maybe they mean it this time, maybe they finally understand. But the new Maya, the one forged in the fire of their betrayal and assault, snuffed out that flicker of hope ruthlessly. Number, this wasn't an olive branch. It was bait. And I wasn't biting. I thought about ignoring the email entirely, but then a colder, more strategic idea sparked. They wanted a family meeting. They wanted to talk about fixing things. Fine, let's talk. But it would be on my terms now, and they had no idea what was really on the agenda. Mom, I typed back, keeping my tone neutral, slightly hopeful. Thank you for reaching out. Things have been difficult. A quiet dinner sounds like a good idea. I can fly down Saturday afternoon. See you then. Love, Maya. I hit send, then immediately forwarded the email chain, along with the realtor's information and my locksmith receipt, to Mr. Marcus Jones with a brief note. Adding this to the file. Looks like they're attempting Plan B. Let's be ready. The stage was set for another performance. Only this time, I wasn't the unsuspecting victim. I was the one holding the script. Flying back to Phoenix that Saturday felt like descending into enemy territory, armed only with a lawyer's advice and a stomach full of dread. The fake sweetness of my mother's email invitation. No guests, just us. Let's fix this. Mom, echoed ominously. Fix what? The fact that my father had assaulted me with a bottle? Or the fact that they'd been caught trying to fraudulently sell my condo using a stolen key? I knew this wasn't about reconciliation. It was about damage control. Their damage control. I pulled into their familiar driveway precisely at 2 p.m., the time suggested in Mom's email. The house looked deceptively peaceful under the bright Arizona sun. No signs of the internal rot, the desperate scheming happening behind the perfectly maintained facade. My mother, Carmen, opened the door before I even knocked, her arms outstretched, a practiced expression of warm maternal concern plastered on her face. Maya, baby, thank goodness you came. She pulled me into a hug that felt brittle, cold beneath the surface warmth. We were so worried after things got out of hand at the party. Your father. He wasn't himself. I stepped back politely, extracting myself from her grasp. Where is he? In the living room, she said, ushering me inside. He feels just terrible about everything. The living room had been staged. That was the only word for it. Fresh orchids, my least favorite flower, sat perkily on the coffee table. A tray with lemon tea and my favorite almond shortbread cookies was artfully arranged beside it. And propped prominently on the mantelpiece were old family photos I hadn't seen displayed in years. Me and Mateo at the lake as kids, awkward teenage portraits, even one blurry shot from my high school debate competition. A pathetic attempt to evoke nostalgia, to remind me of the good times before I became such a disappointment. My father, Ricardo, sat slumped in his usual armchair, looking convincingly contrite. Mateo, my golden boy doctor brother, perched on the armrest beside him, offering silent, supportive solidarity. Isabella Mateo's wife was nowhere to be seen, likely deemed unnecessary for this particular performance. Maya, Dad began, his voice thick with false emotion. I I owe you an apology, a profound one. What happened at Mateo's party, it was inexcusable. Stress, champagne, frustration, it all just boiled over. I am so deeply ashamed. He looked down at his hands. Mom chimed in quickly. We both are, sweetheart. We never meant for things to escalate. We just want what's best for this family, for both our children. She gestured towards the empty armchair opposite Dad. Sit, please. Let's talk. Like a family. I didn't sit. I remained standing near the doorway, my arms crossed loosely. Talk about what, Mom? About Dad assaulting me with a wine bottle in front of 200 people? Or about you two trying to sell my Denver condo behind my back using a stolen key? Their faces froze. The feigned contrition vanished, replaced by wary defensiveness. Now, Maya, Dad started, his voice regaining some of its old authoritative bluster. The realtor call was a simple misunderstanding, exploratory. Your mother was just trying to assess options. Options that involved listing my property without my knowledge or consent? I countered calmly. Using a key you lifted from my purse months ago? It wasn't theft, Mom protested, her voice rising. We were just looking out for your interests. That condo is too much for you alone. We thought maybe investing the equity, my equity? From my condo? I let out a short, sharp laugh devoid of humor. Interesting, because just before Dad decided to redecorate my head with a bottle, you were both publicly demanding I gift that same condo to Mateo and Isabella. Silence. They exchanged uneasy glances. Mateo shifted uncomfortably on the armrest. Look, Dad said finally, changing tactics, leaning forward earnestly. Mistakes were made. Tempers flared. We weren't thinking clearly. But we're family, Maya. We need to move past this. We need to clarify things, set boundaries, ensure everyone feels secure. He reached over and picked up a thick manila envelope from the side table, offering it to me like a peace treaty. Your mother and I, we drafted something, just some ideas on clarifying asset boundaries, ensuring mutual understanding going forward, to prevent future misunderstandings. I looked at the envelope, then back at their expectant faces. This was it. Plan B. The fake reconciliation leading to the disguised document signing. My lawyer, Mr. Jones, had predicted this exact move. I took the envelope slowly, walked over to the dining room table, the one where countless tense family dinners had played out, and deliberately spread the contents out under the bright overhead light. Thick, formal legal paper, filled with dense paragraphs and complex clauses. The title, however, was clear enough, despite the obfuscating legalese surrounding it. Deed Transfer Agreement and Release of Claims. I scanned the key sections. Transfer of property located at my Denver condo address from Maya Flores to Mateo Flores, beneficiary, for the sum of $1 and familial consideration. Release of all past, present, and future claims by Maya Flores against Ricardo and Carmen Flores related to property or financial support. Signature line waiting at the bottom. My chest tightened, not with fear, but with a cold, hard certainty. I looked up, meeting my father's gaze across the room. He was trying to look sincere, concerned. My mother watched me anxiously, twisting her hands. Mateo stared fixedly at the rug. This, I said, my voice quiet but carrying clearly in the suddenly silent room, is not an agreement about boundaries. This is a legal document attempting to trick me into signing away my Denver condo to Mateo. Carmen gasped. Ricardo started to protest. No, it's just standard language. Standard language for theft, perhaps. I cut him off coolly. I folded the papers deliberately and slid them back into the envelope. Did you really think I wouldn't read it? Did you think after being assaulted and finding out you tried to sell my home, I would blindly sign anything you put in front of me? I shook my head slowly, the absurdity of it all almost overwhelming. This wasn't a reconciliation. This was theater, a desperate, poorly staged attempt at fraud. How dare you? Carmen cried, finding her voice. We are your parents. And you tried to steal my home after my own father hit me with a bottle. I shot back, the calm finally cracking, anger flaring hot and bright. You think that title gives you the right to commit felonies against me? It's just property, Maya. Mateo finally spoke, sounding petulant. Why do you care so much? Dad and Mom need security. Then maybe they should have thought about that before losing their house, I snapped, turning towards the door. I'm not signing anything. Not now, not ever. And I suggest you get a good lawyer, because Mr. Jones will be initiating proceedings regarding the attempted fraudulent listing and the assault very soon. Wait! Ricardo stood up, panic flashing in his eyes. Don't do this, Maya. Think of the family. What family, Dad? I asked, pausing at the door, turning back to face them one last time. The one that kicks me out of photos? The one that assaults me when I don't comply? The one that tries to steal my home? I shook my head again, a profound sadness washing over the anger. You destroyed that family long before tonight. And then I played my final card. The ace up my sleeve Mr. Jones had uncovered. Speaking of houses, I said casually, though my heart was pounding. Perhaps you should worry less about my condo in Denver and more about the roof currently over your heads here in Phoenix. They stared at me, confused. What are you talking about? Carmen asked nervously. I was just reviewing some old family records with Mr. Jones. I continued, keeping my voice level. Interesting what you find, like the deed to this house. Remember when I helped you avoid foreclosure back in 2010 after Dad's business failed? Took out that loan in my name, put the title temporarily under my trust for security? Their faces went blank, then comprehension dawned, followed swiftly by sheer panic. You wouldn't, Ricardo stammered. We paid you back. We agreed. You paid back the loan, Dad, I corrected him. But the title transfer back to you? Seems that paperwork, I smiled faintly, got overlooked. A formality you forgot. Legally, I gestured around the beautifully appointed living room. This house? It's mine. The silence that followed was absolute, broken only by my mother's sharp intake of breath. They stared at me, utterly speechless, the full implication of their situation crashing down upon them. The house they lived in, the asset they likely counted on, belonged entirely to the daughter they had just assaulted and tried to defraud. You have 30 days, I stated quietly, referencing the formal eviction notice Mr. Jones had already filed and served via certified mail, likely arriving tomorrow. To vacate my property. My lawyer will handle the eviction proceedings and the recovery of damages related to the assault and the attempted fraudulent sale of my condo. I didn't wait for their reaction. I turned, opened the front door, and walked out into the warm Arizona evening, leaving them standing frozen amidst the ruins of their own making. This time, there were no tears, no lingering doubts. Just the clean, quiet click of the door closing behind me, severing the last tie, and the surprising lightness of finally, truly being free.